Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Mental Wealth Podcast. My name is Will Fleming.
And I'm Makirei Marasala Thompson.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Mental Wealth Podcast. My name is Will Fleming.
And I'm Makirei Marasala Thompson.
And yes, we say it every week, but yes, it's true. We have another amazing guest for you on this week's podcast. Hey, bro. Hopefully our new mayor. Is it okay for me to say that?
Hey, the potential mayor, yeah. Joining us today for this awesome podcast, Efeso Collins. Uzo, welcome to the studio, brother, and appreciate your awesome time. I know things are going to start ramping up for you, but just to get the ball rolling, tell me, who was Efeso?
Thanks for having me. Really good to be here today. As Ray was saying, I grew up in Otara, and his family was renowned for sport, and ours was renowned for going to church and being good kids. So that's how we all. I think you were on Preston Road like us, so we were all on the same street, but grew up in Otara. I'm the youngest of six. And so I'm fortunate in that everyone looked after me, so I could be naughty. I was the naughty kid who talked a lot. Same in every Samoan family, I think, where you get away with lots. And so grew up there, did all my schooling there, went to Tangaroa, and then was the first to go to university and graduate from university in my family. And others came after me. So I counted a real privilege that was our course. I think the challenges when I look back on it is I think of the stresses that mum and dad went through most, and it was probably over money, because they worked long hours, and it was, where does the money go? It's either to the church, back home to Samoa, with their 6 kids in the house. So I think that I've been reflecting on what their stresses may have been, and I think that's probably one of the key stress-related issues for them, because they're working such long hours too. So that's a little bit about my background.
Please tell us about your schooling history, Uzo.
So East Tamaki Primary School, Ferguson Intermediate, and then I did 2 weeks at Auckland Grammar. So after intermediate, they said, Efeso, apply for a school outside of Otara because you're bright. And, I just listened to my teacher. I didn't think I was very bright. And I applied for a number of schools, got into none of them. Manurewa High School, Otahu, no one took me. Auckland Grammar took me. And then I realized that maybe Auckland Grammar and I didn't have the right fit. I think they were looking at a lock at a number 4 and number 5, but I'm more of a goal defence. So they, so after a couple of weeks, I thought, no. And then went to Tangaroa and loved it. So did the rest of my years at TC.
Now, as a young buck at Tangaroa College, where you were, you're actually the man at Tangaroa College. I always saw you as somebody with a whole lot of confidence. You had swag. Everybody was hovering all around you. You seemed to be the go-to guy. You were the My River app of the community at the time.
I like swag. Yeah, I'm not sure, I think being the youngest, I got to observe how everyone else in the family was parented. And because I got away with a lot, I knew what my brothers couldn't get away with, and I knew what my older sisters couldn't get away with. And so you're able, as the youngest, I'm able to kind of see the gaps, and then it's all right for me to go into those gaps because mum and dad, by then, back in those days, we used to get smacks. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it on this show, but no. Oh, yeah. So in those days, we used to get smacks. Yeah, thanks. But my parents I think were tired of smacking by the time I came. So I really benefited from that because, all the other brothers and sisters were so wayward that there was one child in the house that was good and humble. And I think that probably played an impact on that. And I'm a real believer in people like being really robust, because I think it's good to disagree, but do that on the field, And, I didn't play rugby as long as you did, Ray, and I didn't go off to France. I only lasted a little while and did a bit in year 9. But I was known, my head highs were really bad. I was really lazy at the tackle because I didn't want to bend. But I think you realize after a while what you're like. And I think I'm that kind of person that loves to ref. So now I ref lots. So refereeing was my thing. And I think that probably relates to what you're saying, because I'm good at maintaining order. And I think that's just a skill that I've got, because reffing, holding the whistle. But the good thing about reffing is you see the really good plays, you see clever strategic moves on the field, but you also see when people are being naughty and how people stretch the rules. So I think that's kind of related to what you're saying.
Now, you've touched on a little bit about who you are, but I'll be interested, as well as our viewers and potential voters. Who is Efeso, the family man?
Yeah, so I'm married to Fia, and we've got two daughters, aged 9 and 2. And we've been married for about 10 years now. So I was one of those, because I was the good boy at home, I was the last to get married in our family. So I say everyone's moved to Australia, and I stayed back with mum and dad, and we're in New Zealand. And so I was the good boy who, I quite like saying that, the good boy. I'm trying to shift the narrative on some people who think I'm a naughty boy. But staying home, being with mum and dad, I think that was probably the main thing for me, was making sure that they had someone that was kind of looking after them. But different when it's, for a Samoan family, when it's the boy that's doing, or the son that's doing it. But I found it a real honour, because I always think of how mum and dad, worked so hard for us, and it was the least I could do. And so my wife is from Ranui. She's a Westie, and we married in the Catholic Church. I was raised Pentecostal, Samoan Pentecostal, and then met Fia, and she's a Westie, and we met at university. So university was really good for me, because I don't know that I was that good at class, but at least I met my wife at university, so it was a really good game there. So that's our family. I really love the way the children that we've got. It's really helped me too to maybe soften some of my rougher edges, because kids just do things the way they want to do it. And I'm learning that I've got to fit into their world, that, when they wake up in the middle of the night, and you all know this, you've got kids too, they wake up in the middle of the night, they've got needs, that's your complete focus. And I think connected to running for the mayoralty, it's what's the kind of city we want for them. I think I've kind of reached a number of my goals, and I feel okay about my life. But I want to make sure that they are able to go even further than what Fia and I have done. And that's my desire for them. It's my desire for every child, is that we facilitate real fairness so that they can blossom.
Efeso, something that I kind of shoehorn this in, because, we're all told to find your passion, and both Ray and I, and probably all of us here, do lots in the education space. And I feel like we don't really talk properly about what a passion is. It's like an energy maybe, or it's like a focus. And I wonder if you could talk about passion. What is passion? How did you find your passion?
In Steve Hanson's book, he talks about move towards the pressure. And sometimes I think that's something I'm comfortable doing, is I don't run from pressure. In fact, when I was studying, I did a whole lot of philosophy, so all the weird stuff. So I did a lot of Nietzsche, Paulo Freire, Heidegger, and a lot of their philosophy is around chaos, but it's around how chaos allows for authenticity. And I think that's what I really enjoy. I like it when things are kind of chaotic. I'm comfortable. So look at COVID as an example. That was tough on our families. That's the type of leader I am, is because I like looking for spaces where things are unsettled and we can help kind of find a rhythm. And that might be like reffing too, because I think refs have an important task in that you don't allow too much of one particular type. You might see a few elbows and fists and the kick and the ruck or whatever. So that kind of happens sometimes. I know you're a clean player, Ray, so you're probably wondering what I'm talking about. But the ref can help to monitor that. And I think real skill comes out when you've got a ref that allows flow, but picks up the nonsense on the side, but allows the talent to flourish. And that's what I think my gifting is I can spot the talent, the good play, and you want to enhance it. I'm not there so that the referee, you've got referees who they want the whole game to be about their whistle, or you can have referees that allow players to shine because they are very talented. Yes. And that's the kind of approach I take kind of to life and to politics.
Yeah. Now let's talk about balance also. I see you on the news, you're everywhere, you're on social media, you're attending events left, right and centre all across the region and sometimes across the country. How do you find the time?
So one of the things that Fia and I do is we agree to what our dreams are, and that means a lot of talking. And so there are times we know that in politics it's going to occupy a lot of our time. And so we've got an agreement about how we support one another. My wife's a consultant too, so she needs time to be able to work. So we're agreed on, okay, we're going to try our best to support one another in our goals. But then we match our calendars, and it's really tough. But we go at the start of each week. So last night, Sunday, we were looking at our calendars, looking at, well, who's going to be home when baby's home, who's picking up our daughter from school. So those are the real basic things, the logistics that we go through. But it's an agreement around where we believe God's wanting us to be, and the call or the vocation that we're interested in. And it's difficult because Fia's not a politician. I'm the politician, but in a way the spotlight is on them too. And the kind of person she is, what she says on her Facebook page, people judge me by. And so we're really cognizant that this life is a bit different, and that people are making judgments on me through the family lens. And so it's really important for us that we've got our diary set, that we've still got our daughter, our eldest daughter plays basketball, netball, and she swims. And it's a good thing the other one's not doing so much yet, because we would be stretched. But we've got our grandparents who help out too, because we want the girls to flourish in whatever they choose. And so, it's tough to get the timeline right, but we try really hard. And we don't always get it right, because there's been times where they've rung me and they're saying, "Oh, Efeso, your daughter's still waiting at school." And I was going, "Oh, is it my turn to pick her up? Can she just wait another half? Can someone stay with her for another half hour while I head out?"
Can you give us some little bit of an insight of what your Talanoa is about? Because you're sitting up at that strategic policy level in those council chambers. It's something a little bit different to your traditional Otara, have a yarn in the garage or the sitting room lounge area.
The Tongan philosophers, Mahina, Okusi Mahina's work is really useful, but he talks a lot about rhythm, and that, when we talk, we sometimes we'll cry, sometimes we'll laugh, sometimes we'll get angry, sometimes we'll be sitting there thinking, I don't trust this guy, man. And so all of that's going on, and Mahina talks about how that's the rhythm of Talanoa. And in politics, really, essentially, it's about how we debate the issue of resource. Who's got the influence, and what can we do with the basic resources that we have? So all of us have the ability to do politics. It's about how we open the doors, and we need people to kind of role model what politics can be like. And I think we need people to role model the new politics, because I think we offer a background in life that is different, that we're going to navigate conversations very differently to what's been the norm, because we laugh, because we cry. All of that is allowed in the way we talk, yet there's a kind of a Western way of doing things, and that's what's changing.
Okay. Now for the real question. Why do you want to run for mayor of Tamaki, Makoto?
Yeah, I'm hopeful for the city, and I'm a real believer that if we're going to do something for our kids, then we have to do it now. And I think we need to arrest the reality that too many of our people are not going to own a house in this city, and there's too few rights for renters. And so we're only going to push people further and further away. So you'll be living in Hamilton soon. And when they established that train from Hamilton, everyone's really excited. It didn't excite me, because that's recognition of the fact that more and more of our people have to move to Hamilton just to be able to afford a house. So I'm really excited for the city, because it's a big city. It's got lots to offer. But if we build it right, then we facilitate everybody's development and growth, not just a few. And I think as we come from COVID, as we come out of COVID at some stage, we're going to want to be able to reconnect again. And I think there's been social distancing before COVID came along. We just did it by income. And you had wealthy areas and poorer areas. You had browner areas and whiter areas. And I think it's time to really pull everyone's strands together, because we're a city that's going to be built on each other, not not on separating ourselves. So that's why I'm running, because I think I've almost been in local government now for 8 years. So I think I've watched enough, I've observed enough, I've got involved enough to really understand how it works. And it's the biggest Pacific city in the world. So it might just need something different to allow those dreams to come true. So that's why I'm putting myself out there.
Okay, now for the real question. Efeso, what does the term mental wealth mean to you?
That I'm doing really well when mentally I'm okay. So that's what comes to mind. It's like a form of capital, that when things are in rhythm and in tune mentally, then hopefully that's going to result in good capital for the way I am.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning to share some insights and a little bit more about you, the Efeso that we don't know behind the scenes. But just in closing, are there any other messages that you would like to share to help our audience?
No, I don't have any. I just want to say thanks for the opportunity. This is really cool. And I like the fact that you're doing it, because all of us need it. Eh? All of us need the chance to share, kind of talk about our lives. And I think the whole you got me thinking now. I'm going to leave this place thinking, okay, mental wealth, that's going to be ringing in my head. But I just want to say thanks for the opportunity. It's nice to meet you. And I think this is a really cool studio as well. So well done. Thank you.
Awesome, everybody. Well, we want to thank Efeso and you for joining us on this voyage of discovery that Ray and I have. It's it's an amazing adventure that we're on, and we're lucky to have such high caliber of guests on our podcast today, bro. Yeah. And look, please return and come back for more. We've got more on the way. Share with everyone. You know, this is a family environment where we want to capture these tools, tips, and tricks that you can learn and take into your life, but to make them accessible. So, you know, bring them to the boardroom. Eh?
Yes.
That's awesome. Okay, we want to thank a couple of people. First, I want to thank Akure and A&K Thompson for all the investment. And I mean, basically every guest is someone you know. And we want to thank people like Campfire Studios, which we record the podcast at, and Foundation North, who, you know, just by even being able to mention that name gives us a level of legitimacy. So again, thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll see you in the next podcast.